Last year I was sitting at a desk as a sales manager, and now I'm official McLaren F1 simulator test driver.
So there's 1.4 behind.
This opportunity is huge.
Oh, that's it, 46.1. That's faster than the factory McLaren driver, and he's done 6 laps.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing eSports Network.
Live tonight from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, LSRTV is with you to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the start of the playoffs as LSRTV's coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto LLC, continues into tonight. It is the 21st race of 2018. But most importantly, it is round number 1 of the playoffs. So happy to have you with us tonight on your home for sim racing and on the iRacing eSports Network. Myself, Evan Pasoko, Brian Macklin upstairs with you at the LSRTV booth with our producer Joella to bringing us to you downstairs. And Brian, we have seen 2 segment championships been delivered, but we come to the main event, the top 16 drivers from the regular season, accompanied by a couple of new faces and even some other drivers just fighting for points that aren't in the playoff picture. Head to Vegas tonight as it gets serious for round 1 of the round of 18, or 16 I should say, but round 1 as we get set to go to Vegas this week, Richmond and Charlotte before we start cutting people.
And this is where, as you said, everything finally starts to take place and take shape, because now these 16 drivers have an opportunity to race for the championship. Everything gets reset. The points are back close, so you have that opportunity to try to go out there, but you cannot afford any mistakes over these next 3 races. We have seen in the Monster Energy Cup Series how many people have had issues and what could potentially take a couple of what you would think to be key players out of the playoffs in the very first round. You could have a guy like Andrew Freenarch, who's been so dominant this year. If he has a bad race here tonight or he has a bad race next week, all of a sudden he could be on the outside looking in and be in big trouble. So he cannot afford any types of mistakes. You've got to come out here, you've got to be fast, and you've got to get the job done all night long.
Qualifying session drawn to a close, so let's get the action kicked off right away. We'll go trackside and take a look. This is your LSRTV starting grid. Pole position on this one going to go to Michael Guerrilla, the number 17. The only driver to break down into the 28.5s will bring us to the green flag this evening. He will be accompanied on the outside of the front row by the number 13 of Jason Jacoby. Daniel Everhart starts third tonight. Eric Stanford will roll in the number 4 position, and Daniel Falkenham rounds out our top 5.
Starting in the 6th position here tonight is Kyle Kamer. Then we have Brandon Bowie starting 7th. David Comstock will start from the 8th position tonight. And then Andrew Friedars, just talked about him, he starts 9th. And running off the top 10, David Washington will start P10.
Final couple of cars to take a time to qualify. Dwayne Vincent, another one of those playoff drivers. He actually enters this evening below the cut line, 13th out of the 16 cars at the standings. He'll be alongside Brian Chambliss, who starts 12th. That is the outside of row number 6. Michael Cozy Jr., final time to take a time to qualifying session at number 77. He gets the unlucky number 13 starting spot tonight. Dylan Jones will roll from 14th. He may very well be your championship favorite, and he qualifies in front of P15 starter Spencer Preet.
The last 4 drivers in this race here tonight, John Broussard will start 16th. Then we have Brock Drury starting 17th. Harry Tiller will start 18th. And Andrew T. Jones rounds out your 19-car field here tonight. And Evan Pasoko, 125 laps on tap for these drivers. This is one of those tracks where it can get really spread out in a hurry just because of how slick this track is. These guys really have to race the racetrack more than racing the guys around them.
And we talked about it a lot during that second segment. It would not be surprised at all when you have about 20 or so cars that these races can certainly spread out and go green. We've seen a lot of that in the last couple of weeks. Field now just going to roll behind the pace car. Let's get another look at that English Auto LLC playoff grid. Brian, coming into this, all of your playoff drivers hit the reset button, and they all find themselves at 2,000 points, but 3 bonus points available for each win a driver has had on the regular season. So you notice the bottom 10 cars, in fact 9 cars, all with the even score plus or minus 0. They're at 2,000 and they got in based on the points. But from there on up, you'll notice bonus points and therefore drivers ahead of that 0 mark because of their wins. And most notably, all the way up at the top, Dylan Jones and Andrew Friedars come into this with a 15-point buffer. That's not going to carry into the round of 12. It only helps them out here in the round of 16.
Indeed it does, but that is a big advantage to have in this first round. Just gives you that opportunity to have a mistake and not necessarily have it ruin your season. So for those 2 drivers, they have that nice little buffer to get them ahead of the game and definitely give them that opportunity to go out here and be a little bit more aggressive and take a few more chances. But they still have to be mindful because if they have 2 bad races in the first 3, they could still find themselves on the outside looking in.
Couple of playoff drivers not here tonight. If they join us at Richmond, there's always a chance. It is now a win and you're in scenario. A checkered flag by a playoff driver automatically qualifies them into the round of 12. The pace car, though, going to head down to the safety of the pit lane. And as we always are, we're especially happy you're with us this Monday night on LSRTV and the iRacing eSports Network. American Ethanol, green flag in the air for Michael Guerrilla. We are playoff racing in 2018 from Vegas. First time up from gears into turn number 1. Pole sitter Michael Guerrilla leads the charge in front of a side-by-side battle for second.
A great battle going on up here at the front of the field. Could be a battle for the race lead here in a moment because Daniel Eberhardt got up through the gears really good. Now he looks like he's trying to make a move to the inside of Guerrilla. Can't quite get there, so now he's going to stay side by side with Jason Jacoby. Jacoby goes very wide in 3 and 4. That's going to give the spot to Daniel Eberhardt. He'll move into second, and now Jacoby is on defense as he has got the number 1 of Daniel Falkingham and the 43 of Brandon Bowie hot on his heels, trying to challenge him for that 3rd position.
Yeah, all over in the 13th machine to make it his first start to the full color RealSimRacing Cup Series this evening. Going to be interesting how he mixes in with the playoff drivers. Obviously has a lot of speed after he qualified in second. Falkingham, though, using the outside, was able to win out in that battle with Brandon Bowie, the 43. Another playoff competitor seems to be pinned on the inside of the racetrack a tad bit. Andrew Friedars to his outside. That battle side by side for what's going to be 6th and 7th. But in front of them, we go at it for P2 again. Jacoby right back on the attack. We saw Eberhardt pick up that spot, courtesy of starting on the inside of row 2. He followed it. Your control car, Guerrilla through. 13 tried to get it back, wasn't able to, and it is basically a 3-way fight for the race lead. Nobody able to agree on who's got the best car so far. Still on top of each other as we complete lap number 3.
You could throw a blanket over these 3 drivers right now. That's how close they are. And the one thing I've noticed very early on in this race is down in turns 1 and 2, the high line is the place to be. We saw Jacoby a lap ago trying to go to the bottom of the racetrack. He could not make it work because of the momentum that Eberhardt was able to carry on the outside line. He's going to continue to face that problem all night long. You can see now down here in turns 3 and 4, Jacoby runs a little bit of a higher line than the 2 in front of him. He gets a pretty good run coming up off turn 4, and it looks like he might be able to get to the outside of the 90. He will. That's a side-by-side battle for second, and I believe Jacoby's going to have the advantage when they get down to 1.
and the Nana machine doesn't want to fight. He lifts, lets him go, but it might hurt Eberhardt in the defensive P3. He let the 13 of Jacoby go, and the 88, I should say, sorry, Freenar saw that, tried to take advantage, drove it hard to the inside, and is going to have to hold up a caution flag at lap number 5 on the back straightaway. A couple of cars involved in this one, and it looks like it all starts with the 19 machine of Eric Stanford. Got a little bit of a touch from the 77 Michael Tosi Jr. It was the most minor of touches as those two cars came together coming off of the corner, and it had looked like for a moment, Brian, as you'll see on the replay, that the 19 had saved it. Unfortunately, just couldn't keep it straight, bounces off of the outside wall, and he collects David Washington, one of the only drivers, one of the few drivers from this season who got a couple of race wins but did not maintain top 16 in the points to qualify for the playoffs.
And he also caught one of our playoff drivers in that accident. Dylan Jones had nowhere to go, ran right into the side of that 19 car down on the bottom of the racetrack, and has heavy front end damage as a result of it. Certainly not what he needed in race 1 of round 1 of the playoffs, because that is going to affect him in a big way here tonight. He's going to have to come in, get that damage fixed, and hope that he can get back out there and still be somewhat competitive. Now the drivers are coming to pit road for the first time tonight, and Evan Pasoko, I believe you're going to see everybody get 4 tires and fuel. This track eats the tires up pretty good after just a handful of laps. They were already almost a half a second off of their qualifying speed, so I expect these guys are going to be going for 4 tires all night long as they come down for their first round of stops.
And the track temp only at 76 degrees Fahrenheit. That's only going to get worse as the night goes on. You think this track's rough? Just imagine if it got rescanned. Those bumps on the inside of the corner is going to be that much worse. So certainly tire degradation could be a thing for one tonight. Who's able to maintain that positioning, but it is not a sweep of the board, and it is not a unanimous decision because Brock Drury will stay out in the number 26 machine. Again, it could very well just come down to the pit lane this next time by Brian after collecting the bonus point and going to make this whole point irrelevant, but he started all the way down near 17th position. He did not pit that time, and he's currently scored as your race leader. Only car not to come down to pit road.
You have to wait and see what he decides to do here, if he decides to come to pit road or if he's going to stay out and take a chance. This would be the time to do it if you want to take that chance and see how your car is going to do in clean air on older tires. This would be the way to do it, but he pulls to the apron, and it looks like he's going to be coming to pit road. So that's going to change everything. So it's going to send Michael Guerrilla back to the race lead. And he felt pretty comfortable right there. But he had a lot of pressure at that beginning of the race right now from Daniel Eberhardt and Jason Jacoby. Those two were all over him in the first couple of laps. And it was really impressive to see just how strong those two drivers were. And the one person I'm starting to see make his way up through the field early on right now, Evan Pasoko, is Andrew Freenars. He started in the 9th position, and right now he's being scored in 4th. So one of the hottest drivers in this series is slowly making his way to the front of the field.
Well, quite contrast to what you're going to see out of the Dylan Jones camp, who was involved in that accident. All those bonus points that he carried into tonight, 15 of them that had him ranked as our #1 driver on the playoff grid. As we see the lights going on top of the pace car, he might be using up all of those because he's currently scored in 17th position. And again, in this full throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, there are no quick repairs, so the damage on that car is something he's going to have to slowly work on and try to get fixed as best as he can all night long. That car's never getting it back to 100%. In sharp contrast to the driver you mentioned, Andrew Freenars, who tied with him for first, also came in with a 15-point advantage. You'll see him in that number 88 Ford Fusion. He is restarting on the outside of row number 2 in P4. But the only consistent thing is going to be as the pace car gets set to head down, as it will once again be the 17 of Michael Guerrilla in control. He's going to have a lot more leeway this time as the pace car dives down. As far as when he wants to restart this race, he's got from the pace car, dives down now to the exit of the restart box. He'll field in the hands of Guerrilla. We'll put 8 laps behind us, and we'll go back green from Vegas. The 17, check it out, leaves the fight for P2.
Yeah, a great restart by Michael Guerrilla. Battle is on for that 2nd position as you got Jacoby on the bottom, Eberhardt on the top, and right now Jacoby's able to power ahead on the bottom of the racetrack. He'll take control of that 2nd position, slides up in front of Eberhardt, and now sets his sights on the race leader of Michael Guerrilla. couple of car lengths back. Meanwhile, battle for that third position is on as here comes Andrew Freenarch. He looks to the inside of Eberhardt. Eberhardt's able to carry that momentum off the top side to hold on to that position, and now you see Freenarch is playing a little bit of defense here as Michael Cozy Jr. all over the back bumper of him trying to take away that fourth position.
77 Chevrolet, Michael Cozy Jr., the highest running driver in the points all year, and had not found a trip to victory lane. He'll hold on for the moment, side by side in front. It's the first battle for the race lead tonight. It's Jacoby on the inside of Guerrilla. He got all the way clear on the entry to turn 3, but a masterful fight back by the 17 makes it dead even at the line. It was Jacoby by a nose, side by side for first and for third. The 13 throws it into the corner, and Jacoby's going to take the race lead off of 2. Let's see if the 17 comes back at him.
That was an incredible drive by the 13 of Jason Jacoby. He threw that car down in there and just knew it was going to stick. Takes the race lead, but here comes Eberhardt to the outside of Guerrilla for second. Got a great run through the center of 3 and 4. That propels him to that outside line, and now he should have the advantage when they get down to turn 1. But Guerrilla inches back ahead, and it looks like he's going to be able to hold on to that position. But you can see Eberhardt trying to sneak to his outside. Can't quite get there. Now he's got to look in his mirror because here comes Andrew Freenarch once again trying to take that third position away. But now they get single file as they head down here to turn 3, and everybody's just fighting for grip and fighting for track position at the same time. Here comes Michael Cozy to the outside, and it looks like Eberhardt got loose in the middle of 3 and 4, so this battle just continues to get crazier and crazier.
Yeah, that wasn't even a block that Ani wanted to make, but he got those left side tires down on the white line, slid up and in front of Michael Cozy Jr., slowed him down, and kind of opened the door back up for Freenarch, who's still trying to get third, has been unable to do so since this race. But back at the green flag conditions, Cozy will fall back, tuck back in line in number 5 position, and we'll see if he gets another run at the 88 this time. He does. He'll look to the inside. The fight is on for 4th. Cozy on the attack. Your biggest mover thus far started 13th. He looks to pick up a 9th spot if he can make the pass.
And he is continuing to show a lot of speed right now as well. There's almost contact between himself and Eberhardt as they come off turn 2. Big slide for that 77 machine as he's able to keep it under wraps, but Andrew Freenarch was able to pounce to take that position right back to slide back into 4th position. Now he rolls up the racetrack and puts a block on the 77 of Michael Cozy, holds on to that position as well, and now here comes Daniel Falkingham. These guys are all over each other right now. What an incredible race we're having. As you can see, these guys, they know now that the playoffs have started that they have got to be more aggressive. They have to take more chances if you want to be able to move on to the next round of the playoffs.
And it certainly looks like, as you see all of these drivers going at it, I think this is the best form thus far this year we've seen out of Michael Guerrilla. And yes, this race got pushed back a week. Not sure that necessarily meant drivers got a complete extra week into practice, but that 17 machine got a race win earlier in segment 2 from Sonoma on a road course, and it was a dominant victory. But he is right there on Jacoby, and kind of wondering, Brian, as somebody who's competed in this series all year from the spectator point of Guerrilla, you have a new driver come in while you're racing for a championship. I don't think it'll sit very well with you. If the new guy goes out there, takes the race lead from you and leads some laps, that 17 has been absolutely hounding him, trying to get back up to P1. So far unsuccessful, and I think he's got some incentive to get it done, because look at the 90, Eberhardt's right there. Freenarch's not all that far off of the back end either in P4, so the 17 certainly feeling the pressure, but I think he wants to get Jacoby. Don't let that 13 machine stroll away with a big gap.
It definitely makes you have some head games right there, because like you said, you have this new guy coming in. It's his first race of the season, and he's all of a sudden he's able to jump out here and take the lead away and lead laps. It definitely puts some things in your head, but at the same time, you have to understand he's not racing for a championship. He's here for one reason, and that's to try to grab that checkered flag. You're here for the big picture. You're here to try to win the championship, and to do that, you have to get the finishes. Yes, if you win this race here today, you're automatically through to the next round, but if you get caught up in a wreck because you're racing too aggressively with a guy that's not racing for the championship, you could find yourself on the outside looking in. So you have to play it smart here. You have to know what race that you're actually racing. And right now, I think if you're Michael Guerrilla, yeah, you want to get the race lead back, but at the same time, you don't want to put yourself in a precarious spot that could potentially take you out of contention. But he looks really good right now, and the longer this run goes, I believe he's got the better car. And if we get a few more laps on the tires, I think we're going to see that 17 stroll back by Jason Jacoby pretty easily. But he's got to look in his mirror, because Andrew Freenarch and Danny Eberhardt, they're right there as well. And if there's one guy that I'm concerned about, it's Andrew Freenars, because we have seen how good he is on the long run, and we've especially seen how good he is on these mile-and-a-half tracks.
We've certainly been talking about it for the last couple of months, Brian, just how good the racing has been here on Monday nights in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. As you see Eberhard again continue to dive all the way down to the apron while the drivers around him don't quite yet want to. The average I rating hovers above 4,000 for all of these races, so certainly you could expect these drivers to be competitive, but we haven't seen these top two get more than a car length off of each other since we restarted now about 13 laps ago, so it's certainly not going to slow down anytime soon. I'm kind of curious as you see the 17 look to the inside, the 13 a little bit loose, and here we go. We'll go side by side for the race lead, wondering how hard Jacoby's been pushing to stay in front of the 17 compared to how hard that 17's been pushing to stay with the 13. Look for the crossover as Guerrilla clears, but he can't do it, and a nice move. Your pole sitter goes back to P1. Guerrilla around Jacoby at lap 21.
And while that was going on, Andrew Freenars was able to get by Daniel Eberhard for that third position, and he is right there hunting as well. So, again, if you're Michael Guerrilla, you're excited that you got the race lead back, but you're looking in your mirror, you're seeing that 88 car getting closer and closer in your mirror, and it's got to be making you worry just a little bit, knowing how good he's been all season long and how dominant he's been. You want to be able to hold him off. You know that's most likely the guy that you're going to have to race all the way to Homestead if you want to have any opportunity to win the championship. So this is your opportunity to raise your own bar and try to step ahead of him just a little bit. Now here comes Andrew Freenars looking to the inside of Jason Jacoby for a second. Jacoby was able to carry the momentum off the top side to hold on, but you can see Andrew Freenars, his car is hooked up right now. I've seen Michael Guerrilla and Jason Jacoby, they've been sliding around just a little bit, but when I look at that 88 car, he seems planted to the racetrack. He can get back in the gas when he wants to, and that car does not slide like I've seen the 17 and the 13 do here early on.
Well, I think my opinion's certainly a little bit biased, but I love this Las Vegas Motor Speedway because of the fact that you're able to work around a couple of different grooves and find speed on different parts of the racetrack. Freenars trying to go low, maybe where he wants to be down at that end of the racetrack, but he didn't want to squeeze it up at the inside of Jacoby. Obviously confident in the car he's got. He didn't feel like he needed to force the issue, simply rolled out of the gas and runs a much higher line in one before he cuts down to about the middle of the racetrack for the run on a quarter exit. We've seen Jacoby pass Guerrilla, Guerrilla pass Jacoby back, and the saga may not be done there because they are all over each other again, and Eberhard has slid back a little bit to P4 after Freenars made the move on him. He's fallen about 7/10 off of the race lead. Look at the 13 machine absolutely harassing the back end of the number 17 Camaro. There's going to be contact. Big slide. Guerrilla is going to be into the outside wall. He tries to hang on. He'll go to the apron, and he does save it. No caution, and we will stay green, but we talk about the big implications, Brian, when you have championship drivers racing around those who are not in the championship. And Guerrilla into the corner there, a little disagreement on real estate, and he got sent by the 13. Jacoby to the race lead, and Guerrilla is going to get his feet back underneath him as he falls to P8.
Man, and what a great job that Michael Guerrilla was able to do to save that car, but he has heavy right side damage and rear end damage from the contact right there. And that's extremely frustrating if you're Michael Guerrilla, because back to what we were talking about earlier on, you're racing with a new guy, and you have to some extent, you have to expect the new guys to understand that these guys are racing for a championship and to try to race them with a little bit more respect than what we just saw right there. Unfortunate circumstances. I don't believe Jacoby did that on purpose, but at the same time, he should have looked at it and realized that he was racing against somebody that is potentially going to be a championship contender, and be a little bit more respectful and a little bit more patient with him right there, knowing that he had a fast car at that point in time. He had plenty of laps. You still have 100 laps to go left in this race, so you've got to be a little bit more mindful. But now, if you're Andrew Freenars, you just saw that happen. How aggressive do you really want to be with that 13 car? Do you want to get up there and kind of show your displeasure knowing that that just happened, or do you take your own race into account and not really get too aggressive with them because of the same thing could happen to you? This is a tricky place to be if you're Andrew Freenars right now.
It certainly is, and you saw the couple of looks there on the LSRTV replay. Certainly a racing incident. Guerrilla a much higher line, had the lift maybe I think a little bit sooner than the 13 did when he headed off and into the corner, and that's how you end up getting the back end damage that's on the 17. Jacoby, though, with the front end, if there's one part of the racetrack that I don't want to get damage on, I'd almost rather get back end damage than front end damage, and that's why I would be concerned about the 13, but the car really doesn't look damaged at all. So I think the 13 machine able to get away with one there, and that's why that car appears to still be driving at 100%. It's insane how close those guys are getting to the wall on the exit at quarter number 2. Absolutely no let off.
Absolutely none whatsoever, and these guys just continue to run laps and get more and more spread out. And the one thing that I'm really surprised is, as aggressive as Jason Jacoby has been, I really thought that his tires would be going away by now, but he has done a great job at being able to get back out to the race lead, and he's begun to pull away just a little bit from Andrew Freenarge and Daniel Eberhardt as well. These guys have gapped the field by almost 2 seconds back to the third place car, and if you look throughout the top 10, they are really spread out. There's almost 6 seconds back to 10th place already, so these two drivers alone have done a great job getting away, creating that separation, and now they've set themselves up where this could be a race just between the two of them, depending on how this thing plays out, which is good if you're Andrew Freenarge, because you know you're not racing any of your playoff contenders, but bad if you're Jason Jacoby, because you know that Andrew Freenarge is one of the better drivers in this series, and you know he's going to be extremely aggressive trying to get that win to guarantee himself a spot into the next round of the playoffs.
And we talk about how good of an opening night it has been for Jason Jacoby. Again, the way that this 2018 calendar works is that it was split up into 3 very distinct segments, 10 races apiece, which is why, although when you look at the grand scheme of things, big race, it being the first race of the playoffs, that's why you're seeing a couple of new faces, because it is, again, the first race of a new segment, and of course drivers are able to register in per segment. And the good news is Jacoby is leading. The bad news is you got 2 drivers like Eric Stanford and Brock Drury, who also making a start here this evening, looking for good results. Both of those drivers have had to go behind the wall already this evening after being involved in the early incident that brought out the caution. So kind of a good look there, puts it into perspective. The 2 ends of the spectrum. Another caution flag's going to fly, though, and it is Michael Guerrilla on the back straightaway. Brian, you have to think that the back end damage on the 17 had hurt him a little bit. He had fallen to P8, lost 2 more spots, and that time he just lost it all on his own. A miraculous save as he put the right foot down and somehow didn't get into the inside wall. That's incredible driving by a championship caliber competitor, but he does spin out and bring out our second yellow on the night.
And you can definitely contribute the damage to what happened right there. I mean, these guys were already fighting with a little bit of a loose handling car, and then you get the spoiler all bent up like that, and there's no way that car was driving the way that it needed to, and I can only imagine how hard that thing was to drive. But after this decent little long green flag run, we're going to have everybody coming back to pit road once again, and I believe, just like on the first round, you're going to see 4 tires and fuel all the way down pit road. No chances being taken at this point of the race, I would have to say. Everybody's going to go and get the safe option right here, but this is where you cannot make any mistakes. We've seen all season long, it's so easy to slide through your box or not hit your box just right, and if you don't, then that's going to cost you a lot of time on pit road. But it looks like everybody, actually Jacoby has really messed up, as he's still trying to get into his box correctly.
Yeah, he can't get it into the box. I was going to say he was awfully deep to have been able to get it there, but the car sat, right sides never went up, and that is a big issue for the 13. Race off for the pit lane. It's going to go to Andrew Freenarge. Eberhardt tried so hard to get it on the inside, wasn't able to do so. It is going to be 4 tires. The popular call, Brandon Bowie right there, picking up some spots. He'll move into the 3rd position. One of your championship drivers at the highest point he's been all night. But the question is, what is the damage on the 13 of Jacoby there? He came down pit road as your race leader, and he's going to lose at least 10 positions.
Yeah, and that's big, because we saw just how fast that 13 car was, but being fast when you're out front and then having to deal with traffic are 2 completely different beasts in this series. You can be out front and have one of the best cars, when you get stuck back in traffic, you just can't do anything with it. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that 13 car and see what happens with him on this next restart, see if he can make his way back up through the field and see if he can do so and give himself an opportunity to get back to victory lane. But Andrew Freenarge is officially going to be the race leader now after that sequence of pit stops. Looks like Daniel Eberhardt will be right to his outside on this restart. And now that we have a couple of new guys at the front of the field, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out. We saw Freenarge was pretty quick, and he was able to get away from these other guys. But we're seeing Eberhardt with some track position that he hasn't had. And how about Brandon Bowie up there in that 3rd position now? So we might see some of these guys that maybe necessarily didn't have the track position to show the speed they've got now have an opportunity to show that speed they've got.
And then certainly they can take advantage of having a little bit more clean air the closer they get to the front of the field. You did see Michael Guerrilla come down to the pit lane. He pitted with Dylan Jones. I thought that was simply pit lane opening for drivers who were a lap down, but it is in fact both those cars were still scored on the lead lap. They simply wanted to stay with the group, and I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to be in and out of the pit lane for a couple times this evening, trying to get those cars fixed as best as they can. It is going to be an ongoing process as this race continues to wear down. This time by under yellow, be 90 laps to go from Las Vegas. Also a perfect opportunity to say hi to our friends over at English Auto LLC. English Auto is a full-service luxury automobile repair center in Odenton, Maryland, conveniently located to serve both the Baltimore and DC markets. English Auto specializes in Jaguar, Land Rover, Mercedes, Volvo, and BMW service. Founded in 2007, English Auto is now in its 11th year of business, and with a staff that has over 60 years of combined experience in the automotive service industry. English Auto has an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. For more information, you can visit them online at www.englishauto.us and through social media by giving them a like at facebook.com/English Auto and by following them on Twitter at English Auto LLC. For more information, a proud title sponsor of the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, powered by English Auto LLC, and of course a big part of the English Auto LLC playoffs. Lights out on top of the pace car. Brian, a race start due up. A couple of early caution flags. Not necessarily what I was expecting here tonight from Vegas, but is what we've got. A couple of cars to the back trying to work with some damage as Farinars started ninth. Going to be the first time for him to bring us across the start-finish line. He'll be in control when the pace car dives away.
Indeed he will, and having that track position, this could be dangerous for the rest of the field because we've seen once Andrew Farinars gets out in front just how dominant he can be. So everybody's got to be just a little bit worried now that they see that 88 car out front. We still have about 90 laps left in this race, so plenty of time for some of these other guys to get up there and challenge him and see if they can get their first win in the playoffs here tonight.
Hard to dive down to the safety of the pit lane this time. And we will see what the 88 machine does. Again, could restart what he wants. He can go early. He could go late. Not going to be immediate. The right foot that goes down. And we go back into rain fly conditions. It's going to be a very good start, mainly because Everhart was sleeping on the outside of the racetrack. Bowie flies up the inside. He'll take over P2. And Everhart slides to third.
Slides back to that third position. Brandon Bowie now is in that second position, and this is the highest he's been all night long. Started back in 7th and has finally climbed his way up to this front. And this is one of the drivers that has been able to keep up with Andrew Farinars throughout the season. Of course, he's won a couple of the segment championships. He's definitely got the speed to show for it, and if there's anybody that can keep up with him, it's going to be Brandon Bowie. But right now, he's letting Farinars get away just a little bit by about 5 car lengths already, and he's just trying to settle in. As you can see, here comes that number 7017 of Michael Cozy, battling with Everhart for that 3rd and 4th position. He's on the bottom, and Everhart's on the top, and it looks like Everhart's going to be able to hold on to that position for the moment. But Cozy has been extremely aggressive here tonight, and he has been fast all night long as well.
He's been very good, and at 77, as I mentioned, top qualifying driver into the playoffs based on points. Again, tallest driver up there in the running order that did not secure a win in the 20-race regular season. And he's going head-to-head with the likes of Daniel Everhart, who notched 2 of his own behind the wheel of the number 90 Ford. It makes it look pretty easy. Slides high. He's got a car length. The 90 is going to get a big run coming down the banking, but it is not going to be threatening into turn 3. And Michael Cozy Jr. now at a race high, as is your race leader Farinars and Bowie, as he moves into the number 3 position.
Great run right now for Michael Cozy Jr. He was able to pass Everhart. I believe Everhart let him go, seeing that the 77 was quicker at this point of the run, decided to just let him have that position. Meanwhile, I'm looking back at that 13 car, Jason Jacoby. He had that issue on pit road, lost all that track position. Well, he is making it back up in a hurry, as he is right now battling with the number 69 machine of Harry Tiller for 6th and 7th position. Already has almost climbed himself back up into the top 5, showing just how fast that 13 car is. He gets a great run off of turn 4, now looks to the inside of Daniel Falkingham for 5th, and is going to easily take that position before they even get to turn 1. He was able to clear him on the straightaway to get that position, and now he is officially back in the top 5. So this 13 car, he's not out of it despite his issues on pit road.
And he has been absolutely hustling since this race restarted. It was only a couple of laps ago. He was scored in P10. He's halfway to the front now as he completed that pass on Daniel Falkingham as he rides in the number 5 position. And again, certainly Jacoby lucked down the fact that he didn't get any damage in the contact that he had with at-time race leader Michael Grilli. I think Grilli has got that race car fixed up a little bit. The damage didn't look as bad as it once was. Again, the 17's never going to get back to perfect. And again, he did come into tonight with a significant advantage over some other drivers. 3 bonus points, not a ton, but it put him up the cut line, and I'm sure he's going to use all of those up this evening as he tries to climb back into the picture. He's right now scored P10.
Yeah, indeed, he's going to need some help here tonight if he wants to be safe when we get to the Richmond next week. But right now, just trying to hang on and like you said, just take what he can after having the damage on that car. Running back there in that 10th position. That's not a horrible night, just trying to salvage. But while we're talking about that, got to look at the battle for the race lead, because all of a sudden it is heated up as here comes Brandon Bowie. He is right on the rear deck lid of Andrew Freenar's got a great run off turn 4. There's a block for the race lead, but here comes Bowie to the outside anyway. Freenar's tried to throw the block down the front stretch, but Bowie was not going to have anything of it. Now they're side by side for the race lead down in 1 and 2. Bowie's on the outside. He has the advantage of that high line. Can he take the race lead away? It's going to be a drag race as they head down to turn 3. Freenar's on the bottom. He throws the car down into turn 3, trying to clear the 43 machine. He does for the moment, but can Bowie fight back? It looks like he will off turn 4.
He's got a big run to the inside. He goes, and it's a battle for the race lead at 44. So far down to the apron, almost comes up. Freenar's dives out of the way, and on a close call, Bowie will take over the race lead from Vegas as the 88, maybe not happy with the way that went down into 1, goes for the redemption. He'll cross it back over. Side by side we go once again with Bowie on the outside of the racetrack. Freenar's isn't going to be able to get the run off, and this battle is going to bring Michael Cozy Jr. into the picture. It's a 3-way fight for the race lead. This is 77. Dare make it 3-wide, or does he sit back and watch?
I think if he gets the opportunity, you might see him go for that 3-wide move. He's been extremely aggressive all night long, and now he's got an opportunity to go for the race lead. And as you mentioned, he did not get a win in the regular season, still looking for that first win of the 2018 season. So this is an opportunity right here to get out front and start making your way towards possibly that first victory of the year. If he can get there, I think you're going to see it happen. But Bowie being extremely aggressive on the outside, he's able to clear Andrew Freenar's and officially takes control of the race lead. Goes to the middle groove down in 1 and 2. That's going to give Freenar's an opportunity here. If he can get a good run up off turn 2, he might have a shot at him, but he does not get that run at all. And that's going to allow Bowie to gap them by just a couple of car lengths. And now here comes Michael Cozy and Daniel Eberhardt looking for it as well. You see Freenar's goes all the way to the white line down in 3 and 4, trying to find something to catch back up to Bowie, but it's not going to pay off. As you can see just how much of a run Brandon Bowie is able to get off the corner and how much he's able to gap these guys from on the high side.
The 43 has been picture perfect since he's gotten up here, and you talk a lot about Eberhardt as well in the 90 machine. Again, he is applying the pressure onto the 77. Basically, looks like exactly what we had about 30 laps ago, Brian, with the top 4 cars on track, all separated by still less than a half a second, and almost 2 sets of 2x2 as Eberhardt tries to get to the inside of Cozy, and Freenar's tries to get to the inside of Bowie, but with the 10s unsuccessful. The top 4 really gap the rest of the field. It's a second between P4 Eberhardt and P5 Harry Tiller, who in the 69 machine is at his race high as he's picked up 13 spots.
Yeah, great run for Harry Tiller right now up into the top 5. He was actually able to get back around Jason Jacoby just a handful of laps ago. Looks like Jacoby might have been too aggressive on those tires at the beginning of this thing, because I think the tires have begun to give up on that 13 car. He's slipping and sliding back just a little bit right now. Still running lap times pretty comparable to our race leaders. It's actually just a little bit quicker than Brandon Bowie that last time by, but definitely looks like he's struggling with that car some more than he did at the beginning of this race when he had the track position and he was out front. But they're certainly still doing a great job recovering from his issues on pit road. If he can get a quick caution or possibly just be able to make some time here in this run, he might be able to get back into it. But what a great battle we've got going on inside the top 4 right now. Is you can just see these 4 drivers just continue to go after one another. And I love, like you mentioned earlier on, Evan Pasoko, well, these guys can run so many different lines around the racetrack. We see them all, for the most part, running up high in 1 and 2, but down in 3 and 4, I see Bowie running a little bit higher. You see Andrew Freenar's pinning that car to the white line just about every single time. And then the same thing can be said for Michael Cozy and Daniel Eberhardt. They're running different lines. As now the battle's on for the race lead. Once again, Freenar's is on the bottom, but Bowie has the advantage on the outside.
You've been watching the fight a little bit further back as Jacoby tries to get on the inside of Tiller. There's going to be an accident there. The 13 is spinning on the front straightaway, and he will save it. Another fantastic recovery. 2 of them tonight that look like pretty much guaranteed cautions, and they were able to recover on both occasions as Tiller and Jacoby got together coming off of quarter number 4. We'll take a look at the LSRTV replay. Look like the 13 machine pushes up a little bit on Tiller, and Jacoby was pretty much sent to the inside wall, but he does a great job hanging on. So Tiller will hang on to P5 for the moment. Another close call, though, as we breathe a sigh of relief. And now watch the battle for the race lead resume again. Farinar's trying to go low, and in all honesty, Brian, I don't think Bowie's got a problem with that. We saw when that battle for the race lead first went down as he goes to the inside again. Farinar's tried to block low. Bowie didn't care. He forced his way to the outside on him. Maybe that's the line the 43 car likes.
It is indeed, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think Andrew Farinars has the better car right now, but Bowie does not want to give up that race lead, mainly because for the first time all year long, a win actually means something. It's going to guarantee you a spot into the next round of the playoffs. In the regular season, the wins didn't guarantee you anything. It didn't lock you into the playoffs. It just gave you that boost of confidence. But now, if you can win this thing, you know you don't have to go through Richmond next week or Charlotte in 2 weeks and have to worry about points. You can just go out there and get it. But Andrew Farinars was able to make the move down on the bottom of the racetrack. He has the lead at the line, but Bowie continues to fight back on the outside line. This time, can he do it? Can he make that move on the outside work? It does not look like it. Andrew Farinars secures the race lead back to the front on lap 25.
And as Zanani goes to the inside, all of these drivers want that free ticket into the round of 12 because that race at Richmond and that race at Charlotte are no ordinary ones. Heat races going to be implemented next Monday night, and then in 2 weeks from Charlotte, it is the Roval. 3-way fight for the race lead, maybe 3 wide as the 43 tries to go in the middle, but the driver with all the momentum is Daniel Eberhard. He'll fly up the inside, and just as he joins that battle for the race lead, passes both of them. He'll go third to first and take over the lead at lap 56.
Absolutely incredible driving by the number 90 of Daniel Eberhard, and now he has the race lead and could potentially be able to drive away from these drivers. As you can see, Brandon Bowie and Andrew Farinars, they are not done with one another. I feel like these guys just cannot seem to get away from each other. They just continue to battle hard every single lap, and that has allowed Daniel Eberhard to get out in front, and now he's trying to gap these drivers. But how about Michael Cozy Jr.? He has stayed right with these guys this entire run, and I'm telling you, this looks like his best opportunity to go after that first win on the season. Do not count that 77 car out here tonight, because if he can get a little bit of luck, I think you might see him out there battling and possibly getting his first win.
Just starting to approach the halfway point in this race, and we've already seen numerous battles for the race lead. I don't see any indication that we shouldn't expect that to continue into the second half of this Las Vegas 125, 125 laps, 188 miles top to bottom tonight from Las Vegas, Nevada. And so far, we worked lap number 58 at a green flag condition. A couple of caution flags early has hindered the hopes of some major championship players, including Michael Guerrilla and Dylan Jones. Those drivers have been able to get back on track, both of them running top 12, but certainly not the top 5 positions that they were in early on. Again, this, if you're just joining us here on LSRTV on the iRacing eSports Network, is the first race of the playoffs. And just as it is on Sundays, we do have that elimination format tonight. First race of the round of 16. A win, and you're in. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks' time, and that's why I think we're seeing such great and aggressive fighting towards the front.
Indeed we are. As you can see, Andrew Farinars, Brandon Bowie, they continue to go after it side by side down here in turn 1 for that second position. Actually, Bowie fell back in line. It looked like once again he was trying to make that move to the outside, and Farinars blocked him to take that line away and not allow him to move up and take that second position. So they just continue to go after it lap after lap. And Evan, I got to talk about one driver that we really haven't talked about much all season long, but all of a sudden he's emerged in this race, and he's one of the faster cars on the racetrack, and that is our defending series champion, the number 42 of David Comstock. He's up to the 5th position. he is still also looking for his first win of the season. Has not had the year that he was looking for. I spoke to him last week, and he said he was really disappointed in the year that he's had, but he feels like the playoffs are an opportunity for him to revamp his season, and he said that he feels like he can go out there and defend that championship and be in the Final Four at Homestead and win that championship once again. But he wants to get back to victory lane more so than anything, because he has just not had it, and he knows how much he needs to get back to victory lane.
In the rich history that is RealSimRacing, David Comstock, a name that has been around for many years and hasn't had the 2018 that he would have liked. Always great to see that 42 machine on track, looking great every single week. That brand new Camaro ZL1 that we've seen in the last few weeks, and he is running P5. He qualified into the playoffs based on points. He was the third highest driver based on the points to qualify into the playoffs that did not get a win in that 20-race regular season. And as you mentioned, him doing a good job. He's at a race high P5 at the moment. And you mentioned all of these drivers, Brian, who have been going the right direction. And if there's drivers making up spots, there's going to be drivers losing spots. A good chance is to recap it for you right here and right now, because this time by, we're going to be halfway home from Las Vegas. So let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and more. At lap number 64, Daniel Eberhard is your race leader. He has a 0.3 of a second advantage on top of Andrew Farinars, who right now is scored in second. Brandon Bowie in a race high number 3 position right now. We saw him leading this race a little bit ago, slid back, still in that pack, only half a second off of the top spot. And then a big gap though, Michael Cozy Jr., one of your biggest movers, up 9 positions. It is fallen though about a second off your race leaders, and he's about a second in front of Comstock, so you'll see more separation from this point down as he rides P5. Daniel Falkenham currently scored in the number 6 spot, and Michael Guerrilla with the damage, your pole sitter, clawing his way back to P7 in front of Jason Jacoby. Interested to watch those two battle maybe, as they got into it earlier. You got Harry Tiller falling a little bit to P9, and Kyle Kamer rounds out your top 10.
Dylan Jones currently sits in the 11th position. He's also in salvation mode after getting caught up in the first wreck of the night, just trying to survive at this point. Dwayne Vincent sits in the 12th position. Then we have Spencer Preet running in 13th. John Broussard is 14th. Then we have Andrew T. Jones in 15th. Brian Chambliss is 16th, and that is the last driver scored on the lead lap right now. David Washington is currently showed as 1 lap down in the 17th position, and then the last 2 drivers in this field are currently in the garage. Their nights are over. Eric Stanford is 18th, and Brock Drury will finish 19th in this 19-car field here tonight. And that has been a look at your iRacing midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. And Evan, there is a few positions available in this series here on Monday night, so certainly if you want to get in on the action, you could jump in and be a part of this Monday night racing.
And if you don't have an iRacing membership yet, not going to be able to qualify in just yet. RSR Full Throttle Cup Mondays, limited to drivers who have a Class B 4.0 license on the ovals or higher. If you do meet those requirements, you can go to LiveSimRacing.com, look for the RealSimRacing tab at the top of your screen, click on registration, and to get signed up for the rest of segment number 3. If you are looking to simply start your iRacing career, more info you can find out on that at iRacing.com/membership. And we'll stick with the live coverage here. Pit stops begin at Andrew T. Jones, just now exiting the pit lane as he comes back out onto the racetrack. Brian, now that the halfway point, how do we see the fuel strategy playing out through the rest of this race? How many stops?
I think you're going to see everybody trying to make this a one-stop race to the end. You have about 60 laps to go. If you can get another 10 laps or so on the tires, I believe you'll be in your fuel window to make it to the end. So I think you're going to see most of these drivers attempt to stretch it. Now, if you're one of these guys that maybe isn't as quick as Daniel Eberhard or Andrew Freenarch, if you're one of those guys that's falling a little back, you might want to go for that 2-stop strategy. Just see if you can maybe make it up on tires instead, because currently right now these guys are almost 2 full seconds off of their fastest laps of the race. So if you can come in and make up that time, you could potentially do it on 2 stops. But it's going to be a very risky thing. If you're one of the playoff drivers, I don't think that's the strategy call that you want to make. You need to stay out there and do the one-stop strategy. That way you know you're on the same sequence as everybody else that you're racing the championship for.
Certainly, those are the different, I guess, responsibilities, maybe is the right way to put it, that drivers are certainly going to be juggling as the night goes on. Battle with that 17, Michael Guerrilla. Jason Jacoby was able to get around him without incident. Again, I was curious to see how they'd negotiate that because they got together while battling for the race lead. But Jacoby did take 7th away, so Guerrilla's back in P8. Behind them is where the battle is, though. And the 8 machine of Kyle Kamer. Look at him squeeze Tiller to the outside, but we have a caution flag at lap number 71. Slow on the front straightaway is the 37 machine of Spencer Brate. That was a single car accident that brings out a caution.
Yeah, he got up into the turn 4 wall and then just could not keep the car pointed in the right direction, and heavy contact with the outside wall. That's going to create some issues for another one of our playoff drivers. And Evan, this was a track that was that wreaked havoc on all the playoff drivers in the Monster Energy Cup Series, and it seems like so far that's been the case here tonight as well. As we've seen a handful, I think that's the 3rd or 4th one now that have had issues on the racetrack of our playoff contenders. So maybe there's just something about Vegas that's creating an issue for any playoff driver, whether it be in here or in real life.
Yeah, it seems like it has certainly collected a handful of drivers over the last week and a half when you combine the Monster Energy side of things and the Full Throttle Cup Series. And this yellow flag is going to kind of put a damper on that, try to run this out, make one stop to the end, because drivers are going to be headed down to the pit lane, and we still have over 50 laps to go in this race. Eberhardt wants to fake him out a little bit, but it does eventually dive down. Expect all your race leaders to head down to the pit lane. You will see Andrew T. Jones, who just pitted a couple of laps ago. He'll stay out to get a lap back. Other than that, a trip down to the pit lane. Last time we were down here, we saw Jason Jacoby give up the race lead and then some with a big mistake. Let's see how clean these drivers could be in the pit box.
Indeed, and I believe this might be one of their final trips to pit road, because with just over 50 laps to go, I think they can make it to the finish. It's going to be very, very close, but I think they can do it without having to come back to pit road right here. So unless we have a series of cautions, this could be their final time on pit road. So you have to be flawless. Looks like Eberhardt is easily going to win that race off pit road. No challenge whatsoever. Andrew Freenars comes out in 2nd. And how about the 42 of David Comstock slowly starting to make his way to the front? He comes out in the 3rd position. And another playoff driver now trying to make his way closer to the front. This could be an opportunity for a guy like Comstock to get his first win of the season.
Yeah, Comstock is going to leapfrog Bowie. He'll come off of pit lane 3rd. Bowie drops to the 4th spot off of the pit lane. No change for Michael Cozy Jr. 5th. Daniel Falkenham, Jason Jacoby, Michael Guerrilla, Kyle Kamer, Harry Tiller. No changes for 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 off of the pit lane. The only change top 10 is going to be for 3rd and 4th. Comstock at a race high P3. And Brian, I'd even argue based on the restarts that we've seen this far tonight, that might even be a better starting spot than what Farinars has got in front of him. The advantage of being the control car, obviously, is you get to dictate when you take the green flag, and something that you see on the short track side of things to counteract this, but you don't see at a couple level of racing, is the fact that if you're further back for the front row, you don't get to choose what lane on the restart you're going to start on. So, you know, that's certainly something that doesn't help a lot of drivers, but in this case, I think it'll help Comstock, because Farinars might have difficulty getting going on the outside of the front row. We've seen a handful of times P3 slot up in the 2nd spot. It all depends on how that 42 can get going out of the gate.
Yeah, it seems like the outside line doesn't have as much grip when you're trying to get up through the gears. And you combine that with the fact that, again, you don't have the opportunity to be the control car. You're waiting on the leader to go. It just makes things that much more difficult, because once he starts going, you try to get in the gas, and if there's no grip, you're just going to slide around, spin the tires, and that can create some issues. And I think that's what we've seen so far here tonight, and could be another factor on this next restart as well. So I'm with you. I think being on the bottom here, being behind the race leader, that's going to be a big advantage for the 42 of David Comstock, and it's also going to create a disadvantage for a guy like Brandon Bowie, who was so fast in that last run. We saw him jump out and take the lead early on in the run, but being stuck behind the 88 on this restart could hurt his chances of getting back to the front at the beginning of this run, because he's just not going to have that opportunity to get going like he did on the last restart.
We're going to find out. I suspect the lights are going to go out on the pace car this time. You will see that 64 machine get waved around. It was just really bad timing for Jones, who had just come down to the pit lane literally laps before the caution flag came out, so he didn't even have an opportunity to use his fresh tires to get a single lap back. So he'll go from 2 laps down to 1 lap down by negating a trip to the pit lane. Lights out on top of the pace car. He will pass on the right-hand side. We'll get set for another restart. Coverage of the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim from behind the wheel, on the pit box, or atop the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself a basic download for free or buy the full pro version today by logging on to joel-real-timing.com for more information. Official timing software of LSRTV. Eberhardt to be in control. Brian Backlund, first time to 90. Gets the keys to the kingdom. We'll see what he's got.
Indeed we will, and he's going to have that advantage again of being on the bottom of the racetrack, so it's just going to be very interesting to see what happens here. But we're down to the last 50 laps of this race, and I'm pretty sure these guys can make it to the end on fuel, so now it's going to be all about who can manage their tires and who can get home without making any mistakes in this final 50 laps.
Race car to head down. The Donnie machine's going to bring us to the green flag. It is Farinars on the right-hand side. And keep an eye on David Comstock. Race high P3. He's all over the back of the number 90 car. Here we go as the Donnie puts the right foot down. It's going to be a good jump for both cars on the front row. Eberhardt going to bring about a 2-3 car length lead down to turn 1. And Farinars comfortably unchallenged for P2. Off into the corner. 3 wide behind for 4th, though. Look at Jacoby way on the inside of Cozy.
Jacoby being extremely aggressive. He knows how fast his car is, and he wants to get back up there to have a chance to try to win this race, but just did not get the run he needed. Bowie was able to get that big run on the outside line. Now he goes to the outside of Comstock. Comstock hit the apron, so that's going to allow Bowie to move into that 3rd position. Comstock now on defense trying to hold off the 77 on Michael Cozy as he slots back into that 4th position. And meanwhile, now the race is on for the lead, and here comes Jacoby right behind him as well. All kinds of action going on around the racetrack.
You can certainly feel the enthusiasm. I think these drivers agree with you, Brian. If this goes green, this is going to be into the end. But if they keep racing like that, it might not go green. But the 43 of Bowie, he tried to get on the inside of Farinars. Didn't happen. You get aggressive driving still as Cozy and Jacoby simply cannot get off of each other for 5th and 6th position. And so far, no fireworks for the time being. You've got Michael Guerrilla on the attack. He'll take P7 away from Daniel Falkenham as he tries to work with the race car that he's got. And now David Comstock is under fire. It's a tandem coming up on him. Cozy first to the inside.
Cozy drives that car hard into turn 3, trying to take that position away, but Comstock has the run on corner exit. Can he maintain that position? It looks like it's going to be pretty difficult for him here. Cozy has a little bit of an advantage as they head down into turn 1. Looks like he might get ahead, but Comstock fights back on the outside line, tries to carry that speed off of the top. Can he do it? It looks like no. Cozy is going to be able to take that position away, so he will move up into the 4th position, and Comstock back to 5th, and now here comes Jacoby trying to get after him as well. 6 cars at the front of the field. You throw a blanket over top all 6 of them. That's how close they are right now. Trying all of these drivers to go for the victory here. As here comes Brandon Bowie continuing his battle with Andrew Farinars. He's to the inside for the 2nd position as they head to 1.
See that apron get utilized so often, it's fair game. Bowie gonna fly up the inside and almost make it a challenge for the race lead. Eberhardt gets off at the corner. Bowie pulls back alongside with Farinars there, and it will once again be a fight for the number 2 position. With the 43 really tired, he has to get out of the gas, and oh so close to taking out Farinars with him. Somehow nothing happened there.
Unbelievable that he was not, or did not make contact with the 88, but that cost him a ton of momentum and will cost him the 3rd position as Cozy is able to move around to move him back to 4th and move Cozy up to 3rd. And now Michael Cozy in one of the best positions he's been in all night long in that 3rd position, right behind Andrew Farinars and Daniel Eberhardt. The question is now, can he keep pace with these guys and try to challenge? He drives the car extremely hard through 3 and 4, almost makes contact with the turn 4 wall. He might actually have got up there and kissed it for just a moment, but he's able to keep the momentum up. But here comes Bowie now to be looking right behind him. Looked like he had an opportunity to go for that position, but he backs it up, tries to get a big run here through the middle of 1 and 2 to see if he can't challenge him when they get that down to turn 3 this time.
See if that challenge can make it back down to corner number 3. And it doesn't look like there's a huge dive to the inside of the racetrack. At least in that front group, you see the 8 Machida Kamer and Tiller. No changes there as they continue to kind of cross each other up, go inside and out. But every time by the start finish line, Stormy still has their same. Kamer P9, Harry Tiller P10, about 2 seconds off of the battle for the race lead. That again, I don't think is done. And we've seen good racing, Brian. We expect good racing, basically with what we've been spoiled with all season long. But it continues to impress me how even some of the fastest cars are. You're talking about 0.4 of a second separating the top 40, even less than that if you tighten the margin up to Cozy right there in third, absolutely all over each other. I can't help but think that none of these guys are saving anything, and it's funny because we talked right out of the gate how important your tires are. We saw drivers pit only 6 laps into this on an early yellow because of the fall off, and then it doesn't seem like conservation is anywhere near the forefront of their minds.
Well, they realize what's at stake right here for all of these drivers at the front of the field, minus Jason Jacoby. A win guarantees you a spot into the next round of the playoffs. So each of these drivers know just how hard they need to drive right now. They know what's at stake. They know what they can accomplish. And believe me, when you think about the fact that we have an unknown coming up in 2 weeks with the Charlotte Roval, you don't want to go into that race and have to worry about your points position. You'd love to get a win either tonight here at Vegas or next week at Richmond and guarantee yourself a spot into the next round. That way, when you get to that Roval, there is no stress when you get into that race. So all of these guys are going to do everything they can this week and next week to try to secure themselves a victory and move on to the next round.
And that's an element that we certainly didn't see in the regular season. Wins did not guarantee you a spot in. Otherwise, we'd be talking a lot more about David Washington, who in 15th position has been running a majority of his race with a damaged race car. He won a couple of races in the regular season, 2 races, but did not maintain a top 16 into points, and therefore did not qualify into the playoffs. The big change is now that you're in the playoffs, that win gives you that automatic ticket into the next round. And I think I absolutely agree with you on Brian. I think that's exactly why we're seeing a different complexion and a different level of animosity maybe between each other when it comes to drivers battling for the race lead. The entirety of the field no more than 4 or 5 seconds apart from one another. Again, very tight when you look at the lap times. Fastest lap was for your race leader Daniel Eberhard at 29.8. The slowest was a 30.0 for Dave Washington, who I just mentioned in P15. So there's not a ton of space when you talk about the fastest cars and the slowest cars.
Indeed, and you see that in the fact that your top 6 are separated by less than a second right now. I mean, for the first time, they're starting to get just a little bit spread out, but a second between the top 6 is still not much at all. These guys are all over one another, and at any given time, one of these guys could emerge and be able to get up there and challenge. But you can see the front 2, they're beginning to create just a little bit of separation as they've got about a half a second over Michael Cozy Jr., who looks like he might be beginning to fade just a little bit. As you can see now, Bowie is able to challenge and take away that 3rd position to move into 3rd. So Bowie now beginning to make his way back to the front. And I'm not willing to count that 42 car out here tonight, because on that last green flag run, when we got right down to it, right before the caution came out, he was the quickest car on the racetrack. It looked like he had managed his tires really well. And while he's been up here in the mix this entire run, he really hasn't been as aggressive as the guys around him. He might be in a little bit of a tire conservation mode to give himself something to battle for at the end of this thing. And it looks like it's really starting to come around, because he has been just a little bit quicker than Eberhard and Freenars the last couple of laps.
And maybe if they continue to kind of fight with one another, that'll also play into his hand. We'll see if that story continues to develop, but certainly as you have Cozy sliding to P4 and you have the Comstock all over the back of him, that restart could have been big news for the 42. We were talking about that he had a legitimate shot at making a play for 2nd. Instead, he stayed 3rd and has since lost 2 more spots, falling to P5. Listen, still a great spot to be in if I'm David Comstock. I come into tonight again, when you look at the 9 drivers that qualified into the playoffs without a win, you're tied with 9 drivers. If you're running in the top 5, you're in a good spot. And I think 3 or 4 of those drivers not make it a start here again. They could make a start at Richmond, still very much be in this thing, but I think it's going to be a situation of either win and you're in, or the fact that, you know, the leniency is a lot more in this round of Brian than, say, when we get to the round of 8 and half the drivers are going home. You might be able to miss a race and qualify in still on points, because 12 of the 16 make it if a couple of the drivers don't show up, a couple of drivers wreck out. It's not impossible. So I think Richmond next Monday going to give us a good idea of who's going to be competing for this title and who isn't. But if I'm David Comstock, listen, I'd like to be up in P2. I'd like to be where I restarted in third, and he'll try to get a spot back as he goes to the inside of Cozy. But a top 5 is all you need in a round of 16 to find success.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about situational awareness, and Comstock is really good at that. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, he really wants to get back to victory lane, but he also knows that in order to get to Homestead to have an opportunity, he has to finish these races. He cannot have issues and make mistakes that are going to cost him points and potentially take him out of contention to make it to the continuing round of the playoffs. So he's in a great spot right now, running 5th, but definitely just being very smart at this point of the run, and still has almost 30 laps, or a little bit over 30 laps left in this race. So if he is managing his tires, he's got an opportunity to show it. He's trying to get around that 77 of Michael Cozy Jr. The problem is that's another one of those playoff drivers, so don't expect Cozy to lay over for him. He's going to race very hard for that position, as he has all night long, and they're side by side for that 4th and 5th position right now. Cozy's on the outside, Comstock's on the bottom. Comstock got a great run through 1 and 2 to challenge for that position, but Cozy's not willing to give it up as he fights back on the outside, and now you can see he gets that run off of turn 4. That's going to make it very difficult for Comstock to take the position away, and indeed it looks like Cozy might be able to hold on. You can see Comstock goes to the apron trying to get as much of an advantage as he can, but Cozy still continues to hang on.
Doing a very good job of hanging on, and look at the 42 push him all the way up. Caution will fly. I think Comstock's going to get credited with that position. He was in front at the moment of yellow, but it is Harry Tiller who is involved in the accident. The number 60 Dodge machine around, and for the 3rd time tonight, it is all on his own as he got sideways off of turn 4, Brian. You talk about that loose condition, and he thought he was good. He simply rolled out of the gas, allowed that car to cruise through the grass, and then when he finally got to a break, he then tried to steer it back up, and I think it was actually not the grass, but the transition from the grass to the apron there that sent that car sideways, and he did eventually catch the outside wall and spin. Turn 4 collects another victim. That wreck, though, went the whole span of the front stretch.
Indeed it did, and amazing that nobody else got caught up in that wreck, but it looks like the 69 has taken the car behind the wall. I don't see him on the track anymore, so the damage must have proven to be too much for him to keep it on the racetrack. But now this sets us up for a shootout to the end, as we're at exactly 30 laps to go left in this race. All of these drivers are going to come to pit road and get tires one more time. Could this be the last trip down pit road? It very well could be. We're about to find out, and if it is, you have to have a flawless stop. We saw Jason Jacoby have issues on pit road at the beginning of this race. He has not fully recovered from those mistakes on pit road. He has not gotten back to the race lead. The highest he has been is 5th, and right now he currently sits in 6th. So we've seen just how difficult it is to make up for a mistake that you make. Now is not the time for that, especially if you're one of these playoff contenders.
And we've seen passes for the race lead happen on the pit lane this far. Let's see if Daniel Eberhardt can nail another one. He ends at a pit stall number 3. The entrance looked good. I assume the call once again going to be 4 tires and a fuel. That's almost exclusively what everybody has done tonight. Doesn't matter if it's been a 6-lap run or a 40-lap run. The 4 tires going to go on for the Donnie. He'll burn out of the pit stall, and the 88 a little bit closer this time, but no change. Eberhardt in first and out first. Radars off for the pit lane second. Bowie off third, and then it'll be Michael Cozy Jr. gaining a spot. He'll go to 4th. Jacoby picks up a spot to P5, and that is at the discretion of David Comstock. Brian, he'll drop 2 on that exchange.
Yeah, slow pit stop for David Comstock. He got into his box cleanly, but it looked like his pit crew had some issues when trying to service the car, and unfortunately cost him an issue. 15.7 second stop is what I'm hearing for the 42 of David Comstock, which is very slow compared to what these other drivers were doing at near 13 second stops. So not the type of pit stop you need at this point of the run or of the race. It's going to slide him back to the 6th position, and while it doesn't take him out of contention, it certainly makes his job a lot more difficult if he's going to get up there and challenge for the race lead. But Daniel Eberhardt had a great pit stop, and he continues to be the race leader, holding off Andrew Freenars, who's been one of the hottest drivers in this series all year long. This is exactly the type of race that you want if you want to show that you're a championship favorite going through this first round of the playoffs.
And I thought the lights might have been going out that time just because of the fact that you didn't have any cars coming by to get a wave by. We have seen, lap down cars and such be in such situations. However, Harry Tiller was the driver who brought out the yellow, and so he would not be eligible for a wave round either way, but he has decided to park that car, not seeing a viable path to picking up any additional points. Tiller not one of your championship competitors, so not in a position to be able to really gain much else. The only drivers behind him already out of this race, so we can't lose anymore. Tiller will join Chambliss, Stanford, and Drury as the DNFs here thus far from the entertainment capital of the world. So we look for the lights to go out on top of the base car this next time by inside of what might be right on the dot, 26 or 25 laps to go, depending on when we do restart this race, Brian. That'll be towards, I think, a little bit to the shorter side, or you know, maybe in the middle based on the average runs that we've seen thus far. So I don't think you're really asking a lot out of the drivers, whereas if this yellow doesn't happen, you're talking about stretching the field to the absolute brink. Tires are going to be as worn as they've ever been. We're no longer in that situation, so I think it makes the drivers a little bit more comfortable in their equipment, knowing what they can get out of it here.
Indeed it does, and now you know you can just go as hard as you want here for the last 25, 26 laps of this race. So going to be very interesting to see what happens, but the lights are off on the pace car, 1 to green here. So next time by, we're going to go back to racing, and it'll be a 26 lap run to the finish when we get that green flag. So all of these drivers have to be extremely aggressive. We've seen the outside line not really be able to get going on the restart. Andrew Freenars is in that outside line once again. And the last time that Brandon Bowie restarted in the 3rd position, Evan Pasoko, he was able to get to 2nd and ultimately get to the race lead after that fact. So this is a big opportunity for that 43 car. If he can get another great restart, get ahead of Freenars pretty quickly, he might be able to challenge Eberhardt for that race lead and maybe go after it.
We'll see if that's going to be the case. You look at somebody, as you mentioned, like a Comstock. Maybe you don't get the result you wanted on the last restart. Maybe a second shot at life here. If I'm Daniel Eberhardt, though, I do not need to be giving the drivers around me another opportunity to get up and on to me. We've only seen one incident thus far that actually led to a caution flag come from car-to-car contact. That was very early on in this race at about lap 4 or 5. Since then, it's been old cars on old tires struggling. We'll see if these drivers are going to be able to make it as we complete lap number 99. The final 26 laps to the end here tonight from LVMS. Pace car down. Eberhardt in control. It's a pretty clean restart, top to bottom. We go back underway. The outside a little bit discombobulated. Cozy on back, but no changes. 1, 2, 3. Single filing out quickly in turn 1 up front.
And Freenar's got a much better restart than he has in the last couple of restarts, able to hold on to that 2nd position, stays right on the back bumper of Daniel Eberhardt as they come off turn 2 for the first time. He has an opportunity, should he choose to take it, to go to the inside, but he will not make that move. He's going to stay single file. Here comes Brandon Bowie looking to the outside, trying to find some momentum. See if he can't try to take that 2nd position away. He gets a pretty solid run, but now the race is on for the race lead as here comes Andrew Freenars to the inside of Eberhardt. Bowie along with him. Can they clear him? It might be about 3 wide for the lead as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. Freenars is able to get ahead, and he takes control off turn 2.
And look at Jacoby flies in for P4, but that all goes back to turn 3 and 4. Right here on the racetrack, last time by, Benani got loose, lost a ton of speed, and what an incredible move from Andrew Freenars, who will go to the race lead at the completion of lap 101. Now a big block from Eberhardt. The 43s liked that outside tonight. He tried to go there again, and it was a huge shot at the door by the Nandi.
And we have seen that so many times here tonight. They know how important the outside line is down in 1 and 2. So on the front stretch, they just do not want to give that line up. So typically you don't see blocking like that on the straightaway to try to protect the outside line. But at a track like this where you know how important it is, you're going to see that all night long, and that's what we've seen. But now the question is, can Eberhardt recover and try to get back up there and challenge Andrew Freenars for the race lead? He's got a little bit of a gap to make up. It's already opened up to almost 0.2 of a second. He has to work hard now, and there's no time for tire conservation at this point. Inside 25 laps to go, you have to drive every lap like a qualifying lap and just hope that you can make it stick and get back to the front.
All you can hope on is just knock out a bunch of hot laps and, to the best of your ability, block out the fact that Freenars is pulling a little bit in front of you, and the fact that the 43 of Brandon Bowie is closing from behind you. It is an attack from all angles if you're Daniel Eberhardt. Try to make up for that mistake on the lap coming back to the green flag in this race. We've got Bowie third, Jacoby just now getting passed by Michael Cozy Jr. for fourth. Those cars just can't get away from each other. The upteenth time I've seen them in a fight tonight, and looks like that 42 of David Comstock's going to get in the mix as well. The 13 wants to protect the outside, so the inside's wide open for Comstock. He'll go there, and he'll take P5.
Moves back into that fifth position right now, so trying to make up for the lack of, or loss of track position on pit road as he fell back to sixth. He's currently up to fifth after that issue, and now he's just trying to salvage what he can in the final 20 laps of this race. But I'm looking at that 90 car, Daniel Eberhard. He looks like he's slowly starting to inch his way back towards the back bumper of Andrew Freenarge. You've got to believe he wants to get that win. He was out front, made a mistake, cost himself the race lead, but now he's trying to get back to it. And if he can get there, this could be a very interesting battle. You can actually see the number 90 car was the fastest car on the racetrack last time by, as he's closed that gap down to just a little bit over a tenth and a half right now. Continues to try to get closer and closer to the 88 machine.
He continues to close the gap a little bit by a little bit. The last time it was by about 4/100ths of a second. That's going to add up over time with 20 laps to go now in this race. The interval the last time by 1/1000. They are so evenly matched right now, P1 and 2. And you have to figure if Eberhard doesn't have that slide, Brian, it's an exact same picture, just reversed. The 88 chasing very fast, but if they're so close on speed, unable to get a little bit extra, and because the 90 slid up a little bit, and the fact that that clean air, I'm sure, really helps that 88 forward in front, the fact that the 90 might be stuck at that distance.
And you actually see Eberhard lost about a half a tenth right there. He did not get through 3 and 4 the way he wanted to, and it cost him a ton of time, so he loses a little bit of time. Meanwhile, there's a battle going on for fourth as Comstock looks to the inside of Michael Cozy Jr., trying to take that fourth position away, trying to get as close back to the front as he can, as he's on the bottom of the racetrack trying to make that position work. But Cozy's got the advantage on the outside line. Will hold on to P4 for the moment, as he's able to actually separate himself from Comstock by getting that run off the corner. Gives himself about a 3-car length advantage over the 42 machine, holds on. But it looks like Eberhard rebounding just a little bit as he's able to make up some of that time that he lost the last time by. Closes back down to within 0.2 of a second on our race leader. And Brandon Bowie's right there as well. So this could very well end up being a 3-car battle for the race lead here before long.
Would it be the first time we've seen 3 cars on top of each other in a battle for the race lead? This time, though, it's closing in on the checkered flag in the home stretch from Vegas next time around. As the field heads into turn number 1, going to be just 15 laps to go in the open round of the playoffs for Andrew Freitas, who currently leads this race. Could be big time as he came into this time for the most wins in the regular season. He and Dylan Jones both with 5 meant that those drivers had 15 bonus points coming into the seeming. Chances Freitas wouldn't qualify in on points, pretty thin, but he'd like to punch his ticket no less and get right into the round of 12, and he's only 15 laps away from doing so, but that same incentive is there. Maybe a little bit more so for the likes of Eberhard. Eberhard came in with 6 bonus points, so did Bowie. So all of these drivers up front, race winners from this year. But of course, I'm sure they would like to just take care of business. Cozy could be the driver who really needs this, but I don't know if he's got that speed. He's been very good tonight, but there's a big difference between being like Eberhard on the bumper to the race leader and fighting for P4 right now as Comstock again tries to get on the inside. This fight about a second off at the top spot.
And the thing about this battle is, yeah, it's only for 4th and 5th. Yeah, it's only for 1 point on the racetrack, but you just don't know if that 1 point is going to be the difference between moving on to the round of 12 and sitting out and watching, being one of the guys that gets eliminated from the round of 16. So you have to treat every position like it's the most important battle on the racetrack at this point, because you just don't know what's going to happen. We saw in many cases in the Monster Energy Cup Series, I remember a couple of years ago, there was a tie between Dale Jr. and David McMurray, and it came down to who had the better average finish through the round. You can see a bump and run by David Comstock right there to move Michael Cozy to try to take that position. He better hope Cozy can't get back to him, because he might get the same treatment back as they head down into 3 this time by. Can Cozy get to him? It doesn't look like it's going to happen, as Comstock is able to get ahead and take that position, and now tries to get away from him as quickly as possible to make sure he can't get that favor returned to him.
And I will say one of the best things about watching this group of drivers go at it is the fact that they can race like that into turn 1 at 205 miles an hour and do stuff like that. Of course, It was pretty reminiscent of the contact we saw earlier in this race with Guerrilla and Jacoby that actually led to, of course, the 17 getting up and into the outside wall and damage. So you always have to be careful when you do it, but I think Comstock felt like he had a faster car, Brian, and this goes way back to the conversation that we had earlier in this race when we were talking about Brandon Bowie defending the top side. Even though he may not have had the best car in that fight up top, he made it so hard for the car on the bottom to pass, and maybe Comstock said, listen, we're coming up to 10 laps to go. I can only do this for so long. I tried to do it the easy way. We're going to do it the hard way. And he moved him out of the way pretty cleanly.
And it's amazing to think, like you said, we're doing this at a track where you wouldn't expect it. You know, next week at Richmond, I'd absolutely expect that bump and run move, and we probably will see quite a bit of that next week at Richmond. But here, when you're entering the corner at over 200 miles an hour, it's pretty scary to think these guys are able to do it. And he got away with it, which is the more amazing thing, that he didn't actually cause an incident in the result. He just gave him a little shot and moved him up the racetrack, took it away. But meanwhile, here comes the battle for the race lead. Eberhardt got a great run through 1 and 2, and all of a sudden he is there side by side as they head down into turn 3. Can he make something happen? This is his opportunity. He's on the bottom of the racetrack trying to do everything he can. Eberhardt trying, but Freenars pinches him down, and they are side by side at the start-finish line.
And this might be his last best opportunity inside of 10 laps to go as Eberhardt takes a very shallow arc into the corner. He'll get cleared in the center, but the 88 fights back, and he'll slide on the outside. Not a lot of space, but a great move by Andrew Freenars to power back topside, slice to the bottom of the racetrack, and take the race lead back. After, for that split moment, it was Eberhardt clear in the center of the corner. No changes back at the stripe, though.
And now Eberhardt has to do it all over again as he's got himself that 2 car length gap. Once again, he drives it really hard down into 1 and 2 that time. A much more aggressive entry to the corner, and now tries to battle up off the corner, but does not get the run that he needs to get close enough to do anything. So now still about a 2 car length gap, and you have to wonder if maybe that little bit of a burst right there from Eberhardt was his last shot on his tires. That could be what it seals his or seals his fate to not be able to get to the race lead. But he's not done fighting as he continues to try to stay right on the back bumper of the 88 machine. But now he's running out of time, down to just 7 laps to go in this thing.
And we'll see if he's able to get back into a position to challenge, of course. The question is, are you going to be able to maybe force a mistake at one of the drivers in front of you? Freenars certainly feels the pressure. Eberhardt does, because if there's any sort of a slip-up, Bowie is going to be right there in third also. But here's a big run coming out of turn number 4. 6 laps to go. What does Donnie do with it? He'll look to the inside. No, he won't commit, though. Doesn't throw it to the bottom. He'll go top side to wind it up, and now it's a 3-way fight for the race lead. Make it 4 cars. Comstock comes into the picture late.
Where did David Comstock come from? He just gained 3 tenths on the race leader that last time by. All of a sudden, you have to look at that 42 machine and think, can he do something from that 4th position? If these guys get to racing, he could be a factor in this thing. As here comes Eberhardt once again to the inside for the race lead. He looks, but he's not able to get there, and Comstock just powers his way into 3rd. Flew by Brandon Bowie like he was sitting still, and now here comes the 42 machine in the middle of this thing as he tries to make something happen. Can he get there? Eberhardt is now worried about what's going on behind him, along with trying to take the race lead away. This is about to be a great battle for the race lead.
And Bowie has got a front row seat of it all, as again you mentioned he got blown past by David Comstock. It is going to be Freenars 1, Eberhardt 2, Comstock 3rd, Bowie 4th, that time by 4 laps to go from Las Vegas. Donnie again on the bumper, but look at the 42 machine to the inside. Eberhardt has been there, but a couple of times refusing to make a move inside or out, and now he'll have to defend 2nd down to quarter number 3.
Comstock on the bottom of the racetrack. He slides going into turn 3. That kills his momentum, and that allows Eberhardt to hold on. And now Eberhardt moves back into 2nd position. He has an opportunity now. If he can get back to the 88, he needs to try to challenge. Right now, 3 laps to go in this thing as Comstock loses a ton of time. This has just become a 2-horse race once again, unless Comstock can get back to him. But Eberhardt does not look like he has the car he needs to challenge as he tries to get a big run up off of turn 2, but not enough to get close enough to the 88 machine. But here comes Comstock back at it once again. And look at the line Comstock is running down here in 3 and 4. The 3rd line, he's running the highest I've seen anybody run down here as they come to 2 laps to go.
Two to go this time. They're going to make it to the white flag if you want a guaranteed run to the end. And Ani with a good run that time off of the corner. But he's going to come up at a car length side. We'll see if Eberhardt's got anything up his sleeves. Eberhardt is certainly pulling from Comstock, Heat, Bowie, and Cozy now in a three-way fight for third. But the battle for the race lead down to 2 cars and down to a half a car length. Penultimate time they head to turn 4.
Off turn 4, they're going to see the white flag. 1.5 miles left in this thing, and one of these drivers is going to guarantee themselves a spot into the next round of the playoffs. White flag in the air. Can Eberhardt make it happen? Down in 1 and 2. He's got the opportunity. He makes the challenge, but he's not quite close enough. Backs the corner up, trying to get the run off turn 2. He looks to the inside, side by side for the lead off turn 2.
He dives low, but he's not going to have the speed off of the corner. It's going to be Farinars by a couple of inches into the final quarter. The Donnie machine goes to the middle line. The 88's going to go down to protect the bottom. Final time at a 4 as we decide the win from Vegas. Eberhardt overdrives it. He'll fence it and limp home in second. And it is Andrew Farinars. Ticket punched as he opens the playoffs with a win from Vegas. And he heads to the round of 12.
6th win of the year for Andrew Farinars, and he opens this in a big way. He does not have to worry over the next 2 weeks about whether or not he's into the next round because he is guaranteed into the next round. What an incredible drive. What an incredible race, Evan. We had great racing from the drop of the green flag to the checkered flag, and it was all night long. These guys were going after it. I love the intensity we saw out of all of these drivers here tonight. And if they're going to race like this at 1.5 miles, I can't wait to see what they're going to do on the 3/4 mile Richmond Raceway next week.
The celebration is ongoing, though, for Farinars because for all he cares, doesn't matter what happens at Richmond and Chicago. He knows that his championship hopes are going to be able to continue courtesy of a fantastic win. And for how many battles we saw tonight, for how many twists and turns it has, he'll blow the engine. And he'll have to coast it to victory lane. He gets everything out of the celebration that he could. Farinars best to Eberhardt, who the Donnie machine can't be upset for a lack of attempts. Brian had a couple of opportunities. Was it meant to be? And Farinars, having that little bit of extra space into the final couple of corners, was able to take the defensive lines. He was able to wind it up in 1 and 2. Eberhardt went low, but there was no speed to the back straightaway. And then Farinars reversed that, took the bottom line, didn't want any car alongside him, and it basically blocked the Donnie machine out of a shot.
It was just an incredible drive by both of these drivers, by all of these drivers, but Andrew Farinars did exactly what he had to do tonight, being aggressive and being defensive to hold on to that race lead. You knew how important the track position was and how difficult it was to pass, so if you can get that race lead and get out in front, you make it almost impossible for these guys around you to get by. But how about the drive by David Comstock? I am absolutely amazed at what he did in the final 5 laps of that race. He came from out of nowhere to all of a sudden in the picture with an opportunity to go for the race lead. Just incredible for a guy that really hasn't had the year he's been looking for, and I think this is a statement race for that 42 team.
And we will see how this plays out for the rest of the drivers. In fact, we'll have an opportunity to go trackside and talk with them in just a moment. And before we do so, we'll take one quick opportunity to step aside. And when we come back from Las Vegas, we'll talk with you top finishers and get you set for a surefire thriller next Monday night from Richmond. You've been watching LSRTV's coverage of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto LLC, on your home for sim racing and the iRacing eSports Network. The post-race show is next. Andrew Farinars, your race winner.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
And welcome back live to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the LSRTV post-race show following tonight's Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series action powered by English Auto LLC. 21 races down, but most importantly, we are finally into the playoffs as the first race of this round of 16 is drawn to a close as we bring you back inside the LSRTV booth. Evan Pasoko, Brian Backlit upstairs with you, with Joe Allen down in the production trailer. Brian, a very good race tonight. We saw some fantastic racing that I'm sure will make a great highlight reel. We've seen a couple of those in recent weeks, but we have Andrew Farinas at Victory Lane. We'll go trackside with him in just a moment, who punches his ticket into the round of 12.
Indeed, and like you said, just absolutely incredible. And we've been spoiled to have really good racing all season long, but tonight they raised the bar and did some things that I just did not expect. The intensity that we saw out of all of these drivers tonight was just absolutely amazing, and it provided some of the greatest racing I think I've ever seen here at Las Vegas, and couldn't be more proud to have been up in the booth calling this race tonight because these guys put on such a great show.
We'll be trackside with those top finishers in just a moment. But first, we look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results tonight. From Las Vegas, Andrew Farinas is your race winner. Daniel Eberhardt comes home second. David Comstock is third. We will be trackside with all of them momentarily. Brandon Bowie comes home fourth, and Michael Cozy Jr. rounds out your top 5 finishers with Jason Jacoby, P6. Kyle Kamer with a P7 result. Daniel Falkenham 8th. Michael Guerrilla, pole sitter with the damage, is able to sneak a P9 out of this, and John Broussard will round out your top 10. Dylan Jones comes home at 11th position. David Washington 12th, with Wayne Vincent 13th. Spencer Preet 14th. And the final car to finish on track was Andrew T. Jones in 15th position. Rounding things out, the rest of these cars with a DNF, it'll be Harry Tiller in 16th, Brian Chambliss in 17th, Eric Stanford 18th, and Brock Drury 19th. That's a look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results. We go trackside now, get to word with the driver of the number 88 machine. Andrew Farinas is your race winner tonight from Las Vegas. It's going to mark a 3rd race win in a row, but most importantly, this one, a win in the playoffs, going to punch his ticket to the round of 12. Andrew, congratulations again on a win. 6th for you on the season, but coming off of the success you guys had at Darlington and Indianapolis, you guys are certainly getting hot at the right time.
Man, how about that one? That must have been a hoot and a holler to watch. I mean, that last restart really went, and Daniel was there, and I knew my tires were gone, just trying to hold them off. But yeah, I guess we're winning at the right time. 3 in a row, 1 in the playoffs. We get to go in the next 2 races, have fun. You know, that Roval's coming up, so I don't even have to worry about that. Go in the next week, try to steal one, and yeah, man, this is awesome. Really cool.
We've had a ton of great racing, and I know that with the success that you've been able to have, we've been able to ask you a lot about it, but it certainly looked like a lot of fun this evening as well, but maybe with a little bit more on the line, because we mentioned, you know, it's one thing to fight for the race win of the regular season. You want the points, and certainly the win's nice, but you know, a win would not guarantee you a spot into the playoffs. We saw a couple of drivers get race wins, but not make starts to maintain their top 16 position in the standings and not qualify. It certainly looked like when we had groups of 3 and sometimes groups of 4 or 5 cars all within a half a second of each other battling for the race lead, it certainly looked like all you guys were aware that it meant a lot more tonight than it did when we were racing 2 weeks ago in the regular season.
Yeah, you could definitely feel it out there. Something was a little different. The weather was really, really cool. I think most of my practice I did in default weather was a lot hotter, a lot slicker. Car was a little tighter, a little looser off. This thing was kind of like an Xfinity car, and I cannot drive Xfinity cars. So, you know, the draft played a big deal because you were on the gas so long, and it just kept everybody so tight. And, I mean, just like a qualifying, I think we were separated by 3/10, you know, first to last. And I didn't do a good job qualifying, didn't help myself starting 9th, but yeah, I mean, definitely everybody was, you know, really hungry. You could tell people had a lot of practice going in there. You know, there's a lot more urgency out there, and I think that showed with the product. But man, what a race! I can't wait to watch this one back. It was really fun to drive.
Of course, you know, you started to P9. It wasn't the greatest starting to position for you, but Vegas is always a fun track to watch races. Of course, we got to see kind of what we would expect in this from some of the similar intermediate tracks. There was no Vegas date early in the race, tried to avoid some of those duplicates on the schedule here. But, you know, you start mid-pack. It's a racetrack that you can use multiple grooves. Did you expect to be able to get up front like you did?
Through the practice in the session, heck no. I thought we were gonna, be fighting for a top 10. Once we got going, everybody was kind of, getting tight off the corners, and I don't really know how we went from 9th to 4th to 2nd, and then, next thing we know, we're fighting Daniel for the lead there. So I don't really know how it happened. I was not expecting it at all. Again, these tight setups and these tight tracks, I cannot drive. I'm even surprised that we were, battling for a win after having the chance. So it was definitely a surprise, but, we'll take it.
You don't have to worry about the next 2 weeks, but they are going to be interesting ones. Richmond and then the Charlotte Roval. What do you look to gain out of these? You could finish first, you could finish dead last. It's not going to make a difference. You will race in the round of 12, and unfortunately for your case, bonus points don't carry into that round. Kind of a mixture of the current format we see and then, the lack of the bonus points past anything in the opening round. So what's going to be the objective for you guys for the next 2 weeks?
I think we're just gonna, like you said, go out and try to have fun. I really like Richmond. We raced there all week with the fixed series, and it's a good track for me. So kind of just go out there, have fun, maybe lead some laps if we're in position to get a win. But I think really we got to, help my teammates out. Daniel finished second tonight. Dylan, you got Dave. Just try to help them out as best I can, give them all the knowledge I know from the track. So definitely put a lot of practice in, just like we've done the past few weeks, and try to push it on the teammates. Strategy going to is a death trap. You take it too hard going into one, your day is over. So another track I like though, actually, it's a fun place once you get used to it. I don't really know what the deal is going to be at the setup and everything, but look forward to that just because I can go in there and have fun. But it definitely takes a lot of pressure off going to these next two.
We look forward to them. We'll let you get out of here, Andrew. Before we do, anybody want to say hi to what we got you in victory lane?
Yeah, I got to say thank you to Evan, actually, you, for everything you've done for this league. I know it hasn't been perfect these last 2 weeks, but appreciate everything you're doing just to even keep it going on. All the drivers in this league, it was a ton of fun racing tonight with everybody out there. Everybody on this team, Daniel Everhart, David Washington, Dylan Jones, Eric Stanford, Kyle Kammer. My dad, if he's watching, I know he's been sick for a while, so hope you're feeling better, Dad. My brother for building computers. And all the fans for watching. I really hope we put on a good show for you guys.
We appreciate when you guys show up on Monday nights. Andrew, again, congratulations on the win. First night out for us on the iRacing eSports Network, so a lot of people got to watch that one. It was a ton of fun. Thanks for giving us some time post-race, and we'll catch you at the round of 12, but we'll see what you can do at Richmond again next week.
Hey, thanks so much, Evan. Appreciate it.
The race winner from the Las Vegas 125, Andrew Fernandez, takes home the checkered flag. Oh, so close to the golden ticket was Daniel Eberhard. It's still a great night for the 90. Trackside with their second place finisher is Brian.
Yep, I have caught up with the second place finisher here tonight, Daniel Eberhard. And Andrew in his interview said, and I quote, "It was a hoot and a holler out there on the racetrack." Would you agree with his sentiments on how this race was here tonight?
Oh, at the end, it was pretty exciting. I wish I didn't choke and I was on the other end of this deal. It's been a long time since I felt this competitive, and to be at a track that I really, really struggle at, and I just did not understand it. I do not have what it takes here at Vegas at all, and I guess the weather just fell right into my hands with making the car super tight. I love super tight setups, and then where it gets a little edgy, loose off the exit of each corner, so made it pretty good, but just wish I was at the other end of the deal. Andrew, I felt like had the shorter run speed, and then I went off into 3 and 4 on that restart, and the car bottomed out, and I choked. So it's pretty upsetting.
Still a great finish nonetheless to start off this first round of the playoffs, to put you in a good spot to advance into the next round if you can continue to have a little bit of success. But as you mentioned, it's been a while since you've been to victory lane. Of course, you did win the All-Star race back in May, but your last points-paying win came all the way back at Fontana back in March. So definitely a little bit of a dry spell. Do you think you can get back to victory lane next week at Richmond and finally end that spell that you've been going through?
I don't know. I raced there this week a little bit, and the car felt kind of dancy and antsy a little bit, so I don't know. I just feel like I'm starting to hit that peak of my sim racing career, I guess, where it's, you're having to learn all this stuff and it's coming a little bit slower. I don't know what the deal is, and I don't know if I don't race enough or these guys just put in a lot more practice than me. I don't know. I just don't have it anymore. But Richmond, I feel like it's going to be a it's going to be tough to beat Andrew. Andrew's just so quick at all these tracks now, and you know, he just sits on here 24/7, it feels like, and just races every single day. So he's going to be the tough guy to beat, I believe, at Richmond.
And to your point, he led the most laps when we went there back in June, or in May rather. He led 108 laps, so definitely going to be tough. He did not come away with the victory, but a great finish nonetheless for him. What do you have to do to step up your game to be able to make it to the round of 4 and be able to challenge for that championship at Homestead at the end of this thing?
Figure out all these new way all this stuff works. It feels like it doesn't come down to saving tires anymore. It feels like it comes down to if you just change your complete driving style throughout the run. Like it feels like you're just flat out at the beginning of each run, and then in the middle of the run, it feels like the car just changes to where it just kind of like hits a bland spot, like it tops out, and then all of a sudden it just drops off really bad, and you start using the brake real heavy and stuff, and it's just weird. Like you don't picture driving a car, you know, like that, and I guess that's why they call it sim racing, because it's really not. It's virtual. It's not real life, but you wouldn't think the finesse, you know, you would have more finesse instead of just stabbing the throttle and stabbing the brake and just all the stuff you're having to do to keep the speed.
Absolutely. And sponsor shout-outs. Who makes it happen for you on the number 90 car before we let you go, Dan?
Well, first off, I got to thank Eric for this new paint scheme he gave me for the chase. I got 2 of them from him. I'm probably going to debut the next one next week. It was fun out there tonight with all my teammates. Andrew, got to thank him. Got to thank Dave, Kamer, Eric Stanford again, Steve Durham, and Dylan Jones, all them guys. And I got to thank God for everything he does for me in my life. And I got to thank my beautiful girlfriend for sitting here through all these races this season for this long dry spell of not being able to do anything in the top 3. Actually, dry spells of wrecking, I feel like. And I got to thank you guys and for sticking with us. I mean, everything that's happened the last couple weeks, it's kind of depressing in so many ways, and I just hope it all works itself out.
Well, we appreciate the commitment from you guys as the drivers, continuing to give us a good show every single week, and congrats on your 2nd place finish here tonight. We'll see you next week at Richmond, Dan.
Thank you, Brian.
That was driver the number 90, Daniel Eberhardt, starting off the playoffs with a great finish, 2nd place. Now I'm going to move a little bit further down pit road, where I'm going to catch up with the guy that just finished in 3rd place here tonight, David Comstock. And David, you had an incredible drive up through the field. Didn't necessarily start the race the way you wanted to, but when it was all said and done, you were one of the fastest cars on the racetrack and came up just a little bit short from your first victory on the season.
Yeah, qualifying was decent, but it just throughout the race, we were good on long runs, so guys would fall off, you'd be able to catch back up and get back by him. And then there was a couple mishaps where guys would get into each other, and it caused us to get caught up in some of their stuff. So we'd gain and lose back and forth all night, and finally was in the right place at the end, and just came up short. Needed more laps at the end. Didn't need that last yellow to come out.
And I was about to ask you, what did you need to do differently on that last run? We saw just how fast you came up through the field. All of a sudden, you went from 5th all the way up to 3rd, and you had an opportunity at the race lead. If you could do things over again, what would you do differently to try to challenge and ultimately get the win?
I don't know if I could have done anything different. I mean, for my liking with the way the car drove tonight, it just wasn't comfortable for me the first 10 laps. And then about 10, 15 laps in, I can start running guys back down. I can be more comfortable with the car, and guys would burn the right front off more, and I can make some gains back on people. So it's just too short of a run for me to do anything really. And this track, the way my driving style suits it, long runs is where I needed to be for me to really show what I could have done to try to get to the front there. Which I think if it was 10 more laps, and had I also maybe not gotten held up a little bit there, trying to make my way to the front, might have had a little bit more time to try to do what I can to get by him at the end.
I'm going to throw a number at you that you're probably not going to appreciate. I apologize in advance, but as of right now, 364 days. That's the amount of time it has been since you scored your last victory in the Full Throttle Cup Series. Can you get back to victory lane next week at Richmond? That's the big question.
We've won there before, so I don't see why we can't.
There you go. David Comstock, almost a year to the day since his last victory in this Full Throttle Cup Series. Before we let you go, David, sponsor shout-outs. Who makes it happen for you on the 42 machine?
Everybody, Aftermath Motorsports, their support for allowing me to come over and run here. Thanks to them. Teammates here, Brandon Bowie, Daniel Falkingham, Michael Guerrilla, running with them every single week. Their help week in and week out. Thanks to them. RacingBiz.com for being on the car every single week. Go check out Jonathan's auctions that he has for die-casts and hero cards and all kinds of racing merchandise that he has for bid every Thursday, 7 p.m. So go check that out. GMTI, Gary Mercer Trucking, Brendan Mercer, their support. Moss Energy, JD Laird, JDR Graphics with him paint my car every single week. Thank you to him. EJ Brakes, Hick and Jix, all the fans, friends, and family watching. Thank you guys. And also to LSRTV and iRacing eSports Network for broadcasting.
Well, there you go. Congrats on your third place finish tonight, Mr. Comstock, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Richmond.
Thank you.
A great run to start off the playoffs again for David Comstock. A great run nonetheless. And now, Evan Pasoko, we look ahead to next week at Richmond, which is sure to be an absolutely thrilling night of racing. We got some heat racing coming up. More information definitely coming in the next couple of days about that. But what an incredible start to this playoffs we had. I mean, what a race tonight. I mean, it was absolutely insane what kind of intensity we saw of all these drivers.
It was great stuff, and I could only expect that it is going to continue to get better as this season goes on, but it is those two big wildcard races due up. Heat racing next week at Richmond. We'll have more info on the length of the heat races and all of that feature, and you can keep an eye on our social feeds to find that info on it. And of course, the Charlotte Roval, which at this moment looks like it is going to be the current version on the iRacing surface, not the reskinned version that you'll see with the Cup Series this coming weekend. So that also going to be something interesting. Again, if anything changes, you can find out on the LSRTV Twitter and Facebook. Also, RealSimRacing has accounts on both Facebook and Twitter, so you can keep an eye to there. But it's certainly going to be a ton of fun. And when we don't have an official look at the points, it's easy to say Brian Andrew Farinars gets the win. He is good into the round of 12. Great nights for Eberhard, Bowie, and Cozy, those drivers. A little bit of a rough go for the likes, though, of Jones and Guerrilla, who recover, get top 10s, and a couple of drivers who don't start going to have to make up some ground next Monday.
Absolutely, and that is one saving grace to a couple of these drivers that had some issues. Dylan Jones having some issues, Dwayne Vincent having issues, is the fact that there was a handful of drivers that didn't show up. They have an advantage over them, and they can go into Richmond with a little bit of a sigh of relief, but that will change when we get through this round of 16 into the round of 12, because almost all of the drivers that are here are going to advance into the round of 12, in my opinion, but only 8 of them will move on, so that's when things really get tight. I think this second round of the playoffs is really when we're going to start seeing these guys have to sweat, and that's where the mistakes cannot happen. You cannot have a night like Dylan Jones had tonight, and not to mention the fact that the bonus points they started this race off here tonight with, they will not have when we start the second round. It'll be a clean slate for everybody. So definitely when we get to Dover in a few weeks and when we start that round of the playoffs, everybody is going to have to be a lot more careful about what type of mistakes they have on the racetrack.
You go from 3/4 of the field making it down to only, as you mentioned, 8 of the 12, and then half by the time you get to the round of 8. Only one driver could become the 2018 champion. Is going to be quite a ride between now and November 26th as we wait to see who that driver will be. Until next time, though, that does it for us here tonight from Vegas. The good news is you do not have to wait another week until you get more live sim racing action here on LSRTV. We'll be with you over on the LSRTV channel this Wednesday, the 26th, for more action for the eSpeed Contender Series playoffs. And then this upcoming Sunday, the Major Series is in effect for the Suzuka GP. All that information and more, you can find a full broadcast schedule at www.livesimracing.com. But the best way to stay up to date with us is by following us on social media. Give us a like at facebook.com/LSRTV official. And you can follow us over on Twitter at LSRTV for more information. On behalf of our entire team at LSRTV for making it happen on the RSR side of things, and of course, for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for Brian Macklin, and our producer, Joe Allen, we want to thank you for tuning in and to congratulate Andrew Farinars. He's headed to the round of 12. We'll be back in action, though, next Monday night, October the 1st, from the Richmond Raceway. That race and every race on the playoffs on the 2018 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by English Auto LLC, can be found right here on LSRTV and its new home on the iRacing eSports Network. Until next time, good night from Las Vegas. This broadcast is the copyrighted work of LSRTV and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Live Sim Racing LLC and iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations. LSRTV would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.